I will say too, as far as the patients are concerned, a couple things for somebody who's been in traditional medicine. Number one, non-transdermal is
Hmm.
huge because, of course, we're familiar with transdermal. The skin is the largest organ. And so when we put something on the skin that's transdermal, we expect it to be actually absorbed into the skin, into the system that way. Non-transdermal means that it is activated in some other way, which in this case is, photobiomodulation. Basically,
Hmm.
the heat and the light from our body activates this patch with those specific, and of course, we don't know the exact formula and we don't need to know the exact formula,
Hmm.
but those amino acids and electrolytes and structured water and all of that in the center of those patches activates with our body heat, our body's light that we emit. And then that in turn activates peptides or turns things on in the body. And so for someone who sees, I mean, I very seldom see a patient that is not on at least one pharmaceutical when they start with me, if not 20 pharmaceuticals. So to be able to have, because even I've created a lot of supplements, but they don't always interact and play well with medications. And you have to
Hmm.
be very, very careful and you have to be hyper vigilant about how you do that. Well, this I can put on everybody because it's not going to interfere with medication. It's not going to interfere with anything. And your body innately knows what to do. We are designed to heal. So it's turning on what needs to be turned on. It's not turning on what doesn't need to be turned on.
Hmm.
So it's just been a game changer in that regard to be able to, activate the right cells and have the right gene expression without me having to be concerned about the medication side or even the condition side, what these people are experiencing and why we might not be able to use supplements and that kind of thing. So that's been a huge game changer. The other big thing for those of us in the Western world, peer reviewed studies are hard to come by. This technology actually has some peer reviewed studies and it has tons of multiples of published studies. You do not receive a published study unless your product does what it says it's going to do. And that's whether we're talking about a pharmaceutical or whether we're talking about a supplement or whether we're talking about a wellness technology like this. You cannot receive a published study unless your product is going to do what it says it's going to do. So those were things that were huge green flags for me to start. And I just started gangbusters, with this, particularly with our patients that we would say, you don't have much to lose. We're dealing with conditions that are rapidly progressing. We need to get this under control and do it quickly. And it's just unreal, the results we've seen.
Well, and the fact that the technology is patented as
Oh,
well.
yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
you have patents.
Yes.
Know the time, energy, and effort and what has to happen in order for that
Yep.
to be achieved. And we know David Schmidt's the inventor of this technology, and he holds over 150 of them himself personally. And this X39, well, all of our patches are patented, but the
Yeah.
X39 has a 20-year patent. And we're in year 4 of that 20-year patent. So knowing that when you have a patent, it says the patch does this
Yes.
in the body, in the blood, and it
Yep.
does this, and that's like you cannot dispute what the patent says, correct?
That's absolutely right. It is the most, I take it from me. I know from personal experience. That's the most grueling experience you can go through, is to receive a patent. So, yeah, there's no question. And, I was, like I said, sold on day one because it's not a matter of if it does it. It absolutely does it. Now, the time frame in which it does it and what it is, cells in our body, specific cells actually are what we call pluripotent. So monopotent, of course, when we're in utero and we're developing a head and we're developing fingers and toes and arms and legs and all of that. That's monopotency. Pluripotent, then that means those healthy cells are going to go where they need to go and do what they need to do. And that is the priority in which the body knows that needs to be done. So we might be patching a patient. We do, even now, we've had to open up with my assistant, who is also credentialed in alternative therapies. She does patch consults because we have people just wandering in from other, thankfully, doctor's offices and things are referring. So, she'll sit down with them and I want my low back pain to go away. Okay, well, here's what we would recommend. Pretty much everybody across the board leaves with X39 and Aeon because
Mhm.
everybody needs those two. But I always preface it by saying, while we want your back pain to go away, and I absolutely think we can get there, you can live, albeit uncomfortable. You can live with back pain. You could have an issue with your liver that none of us know about. You could have an issue with your kidney that none of us know about. You can't live without a liver. You could have an issue with the brain. I mean, there's so many things that are unknowns, and I don't care if you've had every scan known to man on Monday, and this is Tuesday. Only God knows exactly what's going on in the body at any point in time. And our medicine has only gotten to a certain point as far as
Mm-hmm.
diagnostics go. So those cells, though, they go exactly where they need to go. That is the most important area, and that's going to be addressed first. And I just think that's a phenomenal technology.
Yeah, smart technology. Working
Very.
with the body's own ability to do what it was designed to do, which was to keep us in balance, to keep us in homeostasis. And just like so many things that you mentioned, the body is out, people's bodies are out of balance, whether it was from, the stuff going around over the last 4 years or the stuff that was being put into the body in that process, whatever it is, things compound. And I love last week, Dr. Jennifer said, we have two things. We have toxicity and we have deficiency. And where people don't realize they're bombarded with toxins, and they really don't realize, a lot of people don't, how nutrient deficient their foods are. And so we're seeing people that are going, I need something. Give me anything. Give me everything you have. And I love that you said X39 and Aeon,
Oh,
because
yeah.
we're going to do some questions. I want to hear about your patients in your office, of course. But we're going to do some Q&A, and X39 and Aeon is always a starting point. Can you tell them why really quickly before you share with me some of your clients' experiences?
Sure. So it is my perspective. X39, of course, activates the GHK copper peptide. That in turn activates healthy gene expression, healthy cell generation, and regeneration. At 35, we're only using about half of some of our healthy cells, and utilizing them by 60, it's more like 10% to 0%. So anytime that we can turn that back on, and I use the example of the 5-year-old child that breaks their femur. The femur is the largest bone in the body, it's the bloodiest bone in the body. If that 5-year-old breaks their femur, a lot of times, standard of care now in the United States, we don't even cast that anymore. We just splint it, because by the time we cast them, those healthy cells are already rushing to that area. They're remineralizing that bone, they're knitting it back together. And by 6, that kid has no clue they broke their largest bone in their body. I am chronologically 46. If I break my femur, the largest, bloodiest bone in my body, without patching, number one, I'm very much likely going to know that I've broken that bone for the rest of my life. In addition to that, I'm going to end up with a titanium rod. I'm going to end up with a lot of physical therapy. And it being the largest, bloodiest bone in the body, about 85% of the time, I think the most recent study showed, you end up with at least a micro brain bleed, because it's the bloodiest bone in the body.
What?
So, yes.
I have
So,
not heard that. How do you
yeah.
end up with a brain bleed from a broken bone in your leg?
Well, it is the bloodiest
Just from
bone
the blood? Just
in
from
the
the blood?
body. And of course, all of our red blood cell production, think about what bone marrow
Oh,
actually
yeah.
is. So there's a direct correlation there. Yeah.
Wow.
So I won't get real sciencey, but there is a direct
Tell
correlation.
me that later then. I need to see
Yeah.
that study.
Yeah. So, my point being, with these X39 patches, with long enough wear, use, that kind of thing, my body is going to have much more similar response to that 5-year-old, because my genes are still on, my cells are still working for me, and they're still very much awake and alive and remineralizing and knitting back together and that kind of thing. So X39 is very important because we need that healthy cellular response. Aeon, however, is, in my opinion, equally important, if not even a little more important, because it activates that master anti inflammatory effect in the body. Not to mention, anecdotally, which was found in the clinical trials, it's the happy patch. It also balances the hormones, balances the endocrine system. Well, we're all a little stressed. We're all in fight or flight a little more than we should be. And then most of us have some other conditions somewhere along the way that relate back to the endocrine system, or inflammation, or both. I always tell my patients nothing good happens in an inflamed body, period. But also, the favorite meal of inflammation is a healthy cell. So if we're turning on healthy cell production and healthy gene expression, and we're not managing the inflammation, then we're not going to have the same outcome. It's not to say that you won't eventually get there, but it is a much more powerful
Mhm.
response if you're using those two together.